All right. Welcome in, Chiefs Kingdom. We are back on the AP Film Room, coming to you from the AP YouTube page, Arrowhead Pride YouTube page. Thanks for watching. As always, we come to you weekly. I'm Ron Kopp Jr., lead analyst at arrowheadpride.com. With me, as always, the boys, my two guys, here to break down yet another Chiefs game. Not a win this time. First time in a while it hasn't been after a win, but we got Talon and Bryan. Bryan, I'll start with you, man. Again, I mentioned it's not a victory Tuesday for us this time. We're kind of looking at a loss. How are you feeling about the Chiefs after 3 weeks in and a 2-1 record?
I was super pissed off about this one, and I still kind of am. I don't think I'll turn the page fully till tomorrow whenever they start moving into the next game and all that, and you start seeing practice reports. But I think it's like you see losses like this every year from them, really since Andy got here, and I think every team has an egg that they drop every now and then. But in this case, it was almost more frustrating because the Bills lost and the Chargers lost, and all you just see the opportunity that they kind of let slip through their grasp. But I do think, and we'll talk about it throughout, I think it could serve them well in the future if they'll make some changes from it to get better now, and as opposed to letting problems linger longer than they need to. I think it's an uncomfortable situation that can be for the betterment long term.
Right. Yeah. I'm with you, but I love to hear you're pissed, man, because that's good. That's good. I think it's easy to maybe write this off as it's just like you just said, they happen every year and they'll be okay. But there were definitely some flaws that we're going to get into, some question marks about this team that we're going to some of them we're going to highlight today at least. Talon, do you have any similar thoughts? How are you feeling about the 2-1 Chiefs after that kind of a weird loss on Sunday?
Yeah, in the Andy Reid era, I just feel like we're an inferior team, and the Chiefs played down, and it was almost every facet of the game had something where you can pinpoint and say that was the reason the Chiefs lost. And at the end, the defense was almost in the say what you want about the referees, lack of discretion, but Chris Jones, antics at the end of the game is a negative for the defense, but mess across the offense was having their struggles. So it was just frustrating. It was from the very get-go, the defense set the tone, and then it just all went away with that muff punt. So, I get the best thing I can say is very frustrated and ready to put that stuff behind us.
Well, we're all frustrated. It sounds like we all come in here, pissed off about the L, which is good. But that's the thing, and that's where I'm gonna throw it back to you, Talon. Is there was a silver lining here, and it's the defense, right? The defense really did play well. You think about Sky Moore, giving them a terrible situation right out the gate with a muff punt, putting them having to defend inside the 5-yard line. If you take away that opportunity, right? I mean, they barely gave up any points until late in the game when the Colts finally put together another touchdown drive. So defense was definitely the silver lining here, and we're going to talk about it now. Talon, take it away. Let us know kind of what you saw. You looked specifically at the linebackers, which obviously was a key position going into it with the absence of Willie Gay and the substitution of Darius Harris. So what did you see from the linebackers?
Yeah, Harris had a good game. Nick Bolton played his usual spectacular self. But yeah, Darius Harris led the team in tackles with 13. He was all over the field. He was decent in pass coverage. He struggled when he had to backpedal and he had to cover behind it. But when things were in front of him and he could play down the hill with his instincts and speed, he was doing really well. But yeah, he got put out of place and covered a couple of times. But the first play I'm going to show with Darius here is something that really pops up. Lined up right here. That's Darius Harris on the line, almost a bear looking front with Noddy right over the center, and then you got your three techniques outside shade of the guard, and then you're walked up Darius Harris and Frank Clark standing up. And Harris is going to knife actually underneath the defensive tackle here and be able to close the gap on Jonathan Taylor and take him down from the back. Here's another angle at it. You can see it's you don't see this a lot. Obviously the defensive tackle here, Chris Jones, I believe that might be Malik Herring. Really taking care of that right tackle and putting him in back and behind the line of scrimmage and creating that gap for Darius Harris to shoot in there, and really negating any sort of positive play from Jonathan Taylor. And the defense all day, they held him to 70-some yards, under 4 yards of carry. And this is one of the best backs in the league, with now the highest paid guard in the NFL and a really decent interior offensive line, not as good as they have been in the past. But I think the linebackers really stepped up in a way without Willie Gay. Nick Bolton was great. He had a couple sacks on the day, which we'll look at one here in a little bit. But yeah, shout out to Darius Harris, who was all over the field and definitely a really good piece while Willie Gay's on the bench.
Yeah, because not everyone's going to have Willie Gay's explosiveness, athleticism, right? That's just it's very unique, very irreplaceable. But it did seem like Harris was getting to where it needed to be, right? I do think that was kind of, and this play shows it, right? He's kind of making up for maybe what he lacks in the athleticism that Gay has by reacting quickly to the play and being where he needs to be. Would you say that was accurate when you looked at Harris?
Yeah, sorry, I think you cut out a little bit, Ron. But yeah, so I'll go ahead and move on to the next play here with Nicky B. Get his sack pulled up. It sounded so bad. Fix that for me, Steve. So anyway, oh my word. One of those days, fellas, we're playing like the Chiefs. No, so we see we see Nicky B here line up in the line of scrimmage, head up over the center. And this, to me, Nick Bolton obviously is one of the better athletes on the field, but this is more of a miscommunication on the Colts' part. You see the center not even attempt to block him. He just goes for the double team on Jones, leaving the A-gap wide open and just a straight shot up the field for Nicky to get in there and take Matt Ryan down. I love how Nicky gets his hands up, prevents any quick pass or throw away from Matt. And once you get your hands on Matt, even when he was back in 06, 07, a younger guy, this is probably going to be a sack on him, but now he's got his shoes in cement. This was one of 5 sacks on the day for the Chiefs. It was just a spectacular day around the line of scrimmage. The defensive line did their job once again with their front four. The linebackers were able to play free and shoot the gaps, and we see here they were able to take advantage of some blitzes and yeah, it was a really good day for the defense outside of just a few plays.
Yeah. So overall, just to wrap up the linebackers, you'd say, I don't know, do you think the Chiefs found a pretty quality backup in Darius Harris and someone that they can trust to come in when they do have these injuries to their 2 starters? How do you feel about Harris moving forward?
Yeah, I like Darius. And now he has an opportunity here. Quality. And I'll give him an A for that one. He was all over the field, like I said, and yeah, he's going to keep getting opportunities while Willie Gay is sidelined. But when Willie Gay comes back, I don't see a reason why Darius isn't going to be on the field in certain situations, because he's definitely earned that, and I think he will continue to earn that.
Well, all right. Good to hear from the linebackers, but the Chiefs secondary is also a big part of this game. Obviously the defensive line played a big part too, but got to give love to the DBs, right? And that's what we're going to do now. Bryan, take it away and tell us about because you looked into the Chiefs defensive backs again, shorthanded, just like the linebackers are. They don't have Trent McDuffie, obviously. What did you see from the backfield, the defensive backfield?
For the most part, really good stuff. I'll say, I think up front, the defensive line, they had more of an impact on the game. They were, and that's usually the case, right? I think any great defense or performance in that way, it starts with that, at least in my opinion. But they did do a good job, and they showed kind of, that versatility that I know we've been talking about with the speed they have. And this first snap we're going to go over is actually, you'll see the dime package. You got Brian Cook up here, towards the bottom, upper part of the screen. Juan Thornhill. Okay. And then L'Jarius Sneed here at the point of this bunch, Jalen Watson and Rashad Fenton. And this is actually more of a negative play in a game where there weren't many of them. And you'll see the Colts, man, they did a good job of running these pick routes. I'll let it play for right now. Running these pick routes at the right times occasionally and kind of taking advantage. If the Chiefs didn't get pressure on Ryan, it would create openings. Their receivers would, have opportunities, even if they're not the best at separating. They would have opportunities to get open and get targets. And this was a situation where it really got him. You see there that Fenton, he gets caught up in the trash. It's just one of those deals where the way they play it, maybe not the best way. And the next snap I show you, you'll see they do a better job. They change it up. But really, they know before the ball is snapped, Sneed, he's going to stick with Pittman here at the point. He's got him all the way. And it's just kind of, who goes out, who goes in for Fenton and Watson. But like I said, the Colts, in a way that makes me a little jealous about how they approach things, their coaches do a good job. They kind of, it's game plan specific in a way that I don't know the Chiefs offense has been in a lot of games lately. So they get them here. And I don't really blame Fenton a whole lot. It's just a tough situation. I mean, he's not even sure if he's going to end up taking that receiver. It kind of looks as if he might end up taking the outside receiver. And like I said, just a really good play call. It gets him there. But I'm really just showing this to set up the next play where they actually play it much better and are able to make an adjustment that helps them later on.
Yeah, no, I definitely would say the Colts offense, they tried to get it going. I definitely think they got some plays. There were some times they were able to get the play action intermediate shots going, but the defensive line honestly just made the DB's jobs a lot easier on Sunday. I'd say a lot of the time.
No doubt, and they early downs they were playing soft, too high. Kind of just letting the front four. I mean, they did a good job stopping the run with a lighter box. They really did. Then they would get in third down, fourth down, and short a couple times, and that's when Spags would go ahead and send 5 or 6, and it worked really, really well. So now this is actually the play that Talon showed, just a little different angle. But like I said, we're going to focus here again on this bunch. Same setup. The only difference is you got Fenton on the outside here and Watson on the inside here. And again, L'Jarius Sneed is at the point. He's taking Pittman the whole way. But the way that they do it this time, the way they sort it out, it's a different call. And the Colts, they think that they're going to have another chance to set up a pick. If I can freeze frame it here on the back end, I think ideally they hope that those two routes there, and I can't get the numbers, but these two routes right here, if those DBs had played it like they did the previous play, you probably have a chance to get another pick. You probably get a similar result, but because they were a little less aggressive about it and just let things unfold, let them come to them, you can see that it ends up with really good coverage, and with Nick Bolton doing what he did and just the whole front in general, it's an easy sack. Matt Ryan never really has anywhere to go with the ball. So,
yeah. So I think the theme to to both your guys, what we've talked about so far is just, it seems like Spags is really marrying all three levels of the defense together pretty well, because, he knows he has the blitz, right in Ryan's face right here, knowing, Ryan's going to have to be forced to get rid of the ball quickly. And so that defense is perfect for that, taking away, throws quickly, that where Ryan can get the ball out of his hands quickly. So, yeah, no, is that a fair statement to say that, the all three units seem to be playing in a kind of a, cohesive way right now? Spags has them all kind of dialed in on the right page right now.
No doubt. I actually included, it hasn't dropped yet, but the article that I wrote today, I included a sentence or two that was basically what you just said. And that's that the reason this looks good right now, the reason they're playing well is because they're picking up each other's slack, or they're just all doing really well on a play. But it's like if the secondary has an issue on a particular play, well, somebody up front is creating problems and kind of making it null and void, and vice versa. So, and that's before you even get into Nick Bolton and Harris and Willie Gay and weeks prior. Like every level is just playing at certainly above average, and I would say even closer to good. And if you get that at every level, you're in business, which they appear to be.
Yeah, no, I would say that's one thing about the season so far. I mean, you think about this Chiefs defense compared to what it looked like last year at this point. Even though they're hampered, they're injured, they appear to be on a better track and potentially better than their ceiling was last year. So it is a good time to be a Chiefs defender. We got to talk offense because that was kind of the main theme of in my opinion, maybe why the Chiefs couldn't seal this game off, right? I know special teams made their mistakes, right, and didn't set up either side of the ball very well, but Patrick Mahomes and the passing attack definitely had the chance to overcome a lot of the mistakes. But I say passing attack. The first thing I want to look at here, though, is a run that it blew up on Twitter. So I think it's only right that we kind of break this run down real quick and because I basically when I and I'll let this play while I explain it. I tweet out saying, outside zone's not going to work when you have a running back that's going to take this long to get to the cutback lane. It was basically my premise, right? And so when you play this on raw on live without much context or without explaining it too deep, yeah, it looks like hey, there's a huge wide open gap that you expect your running back to hit. I saw some people saying, oh my gosh, that could have been 25 yards, Jamal Charles. That's not necessarily the case, right? But there is a cutback lane there that to my view, I would like to see Clyde get there quicker, but had a lot of smarter people than me kind of hit me up, on Twitter, in the mentions, in the DMs, and we kind of discussed this play quite a bit, and I learned a lot, honestly. And one thing that I really, Jason Dunn was the first one to emphasize, this former Chiefs tight end. It's the setup. This run is just so not well designed for Clyde's strengths, and the way it's set up that way is it's in shotgun, right? You're in shotgun, so this outside zone call, instead of getting it from an under center position where you're kind of running towards the line of scrimmage more and kind of having a better view of the entire line, he's running completely horizontal to the line of scrimmage. His shoulders are completely turned facing the sideline. And that makes it really hard for him to cut all the way back up into a cutback lane if there is one there. So you're asking a lot for Clyde right here to get to that backside A gap quickly. And so that's where, someone, on the surface of it, I may say, hey, I'd like him to get there quicker, but it just might be a really tough play. And it might be the Chiefs not putting him in a good situation by putting him, on this run play. I also, though, think, at the same time, he might have been able to get there quicker if Creed doesn't get, blown into the backfield as much as he does. He's fresh 2-3 yards into the line of scrimmage, which blows Clyde off his path a little bit as well. But I do think there is something to having a running back potentially that could put his foot in the ground right about here and being able to accelerate, without taking another 3, stutter steps to get, vertical, being able to cut, off 1 foot and hit right there and at least get 4 or 5 yards while that 44 beats Trey. Although I do think, if it's a quicker cut up the cut lane, the cutback lane, that maybe Trey, has a better block because his leverage is just screwed because he's blocking outside zone and, his body clock is telling him, hey, that run to the outside, he's running outside. So I got to get on his outside shoulder. So, all that to say, Brian, I'm just curious your thoughts on this. You look at this play, and if you just have thoughts on the offensive line in general, but is this a play, just this single shot? Do you see this being more an indictment on Clyde the individual as a runner, the offensive play calling, the strategy of it, or the offensive line? I'm curious your thoughts here.
I do think the reason that it goes wrong above all is Grover Stewart there, and what he does to Trey and Creed. Like he kind of wrecks it and makes it from the start, from the first level, not do what it's supposed to do. But it's just so frustrating because these are the same kinds of things we were talking about last year when they would have, well, really any game with the running game, but just and I heard someone talking about it, maybe it was yesterday. It's like sometimes it feels like on offense they're just playing Madden and like calling random plays, and there's not really a lot of purpose behind it. They don't really have much of an identity right now. It's just we think we're better than you. Let's do this, instead of having like a sense behind it, instead of being able to watch and say, okay, here's what I think they saw or we're trying to do, and I can see why. Like it just, to your point, it's not really Clyde's best type of usage, and that offensive line's been struggling. I think inside zone, probably, if it would have been inside zone more, I would say, okay, that makes more sense. But this one was kind of doomed from the start in my book. And I don't know, man. I'm just super frustrated with the offense and how they're not really, like I said, they're just not really having an attack plan. To me, it's just very random.
Yeah, no, I think it speaks to your point that they're continuing to run these types of run plays, which again, they set these up because this is how they get to their RPO game, the pass game, right? Is these, this horizontal action RPOs that get the linebackers moving left to right. But I do think it speaks to your point when your starting running back, doesn't do well on these kind of runs. Why implement them so much, and why make them, such an integral part of your running attack? If you're the guy you're going to give the ball to the most, and even Jerick McKinnon too, I'd say, he has a little bit more juice and a little bit more, burst, but I wouldn't say, I think if I think Pacheco has the most, one step burst out of the group, but the vision might be lacking there. But Talon, I'm curious if you have any thoughts on maybe this particular play. I asked Bryan the same thing. Is this more, if you had to choose one, maybe just, is this more on Clyde, the runner, the offensive line, or the play calling itself, and kind of maybe a poorly designed run? Just what are your thoughts when you see a negative run play like this?
Yeah, right off the bat, I don't like the path from Clyde. I don't like his initial alignment. I think he needs to be a little bit behind Mahomes. He's run this like a veer, which is a straight outside run, which is that. I mean, this looks like how I would teach my running backs to run veer. Get your shoulder sideline, get to the
right.
If he starts lined up and gets more of a downhill path, this is a much easier cut up. But I think Trey could do a better job of helping Creed get I think Trey leaves too early, puts Creed in a bad spot. Creed doesn't even have his hat on the right side before Trey bails on him to go to the second level, and he didn't even get a good block there. So I really think Trey deserves some knock here, and Creed again, has, if he gets a little more help from Trey, this might be a better block. But from the get-go, the alignment of the running back is what I see screwing this play up. And if this is how they run it in practice, and that's how they, I just don't think this is how they need to be running it. But I can kind of see the lane opening up where they want to run them, obviously, backside of Creed and Trey and inside of Wiley, and then you can see the slot coming in to form that wall there. But the cutback lane is there, but this is just not obviously Clyde's skill set. He's got too much to do to hit that hole.
Yeah, and I'd say that's to your point. You talk about the alignment of this. Yeah, I just think about if this comes from under center. Think about this as just an under center outside zone run. Clyde's running more up and down right away. His shoulders are more, facing forward, and he can maybe hit that cutback seam a lot quicker. It is hard to ask a guy when you mentioned his shoulders completely parallel going to the sideline, all of a sudden to cut completely, to a, at a 90-degree angle pretty much. There are running backs that can do it, and that's the thing, and that's where maybe my initial thought was that I'd like to see the Chiefs have a running back that maybe can put his foot in the ground right there, I'll put in the ground right there, and just maybe that one burst. Special running backs can do it, and that's a lot to ask of an average running back, and I think the group right now is proving that they are average, but the Chiefs don't need much more than that. If the rest of their passing game can get going. And that's kind of what I want to highlight with this last couple clips real quick. I'll show this one real quick. It's from the first offensive drive of the game. Just would really like to see Mahomes hit this. Would really like to see the offense get going. They're down 7-0 already. they're not going to get, they get a lot more man opportunities this year, right? But they're still not getting a ton of one high man looks. And this is exactly what they get here. And they take advantage of it, right? MBS beats Kenny Moore, who that is a disadvantage on deep routes, right? Kenny Moore, the slot cornerback, definitely not someone that's known for keeping up, down the field, contesting down the field against receivers like MBS. They got the matchup they wanted. The safety, look how far away the safety is. He starts on, away on the opposite hash. And man, it'd just be really nice to see this ball get connected. It could have been a touchdown potentially if it hits him in stride. And I just want to point out real quick, I know the pressure was there a little bit, but I do think Mahomes maybe unnecessarily rushes his drop a little bit here. I do think he could have, maybe been a little more calm in his drop. I do think he rushes it a little bit, and that could have forced the inaccuracy. I know it's very subtle, right? It doesn't look super rushed or anything. And while I pull up the next play, I might ask Bryan what you think about if this is rushed or not. But I think he rushes it just a teensy bit, and it gives them an inaccurate pass. What do you think?
Agreed, definitely. It just sucks. These are the types of plays you don't get many of these opportunities against a good defense. And I knew when it happened. I'm sure you guys felt the same way. Like, man, we're probably not going to get one that open again downfield. It's good usage. It's letting Marquez do something that he excels at. And of course it came on the first drive. So you kind of wondered if it would continue, but they got to just figure out how to connect on these. It could very well be, I would say you're right, Ron, the footwork that clearly has an impact on his accuracy and his delivery. So you could pretty easily say that that's the main reason why, but this is one area where I don't want to go down the Tyreek rabbit hole a whole lot, but Tyreek was the type where you could be a little off and he might make it work.
Right.
And now you don't have a downfield threat who is going to be able to do that consistently. So you got to be on point. So hopefully Mahomes, the offensive line, can tighten this thing up.
Talon, let me bring you in here on this because I'm just curious, can you ask much more of, because you see Trey Smith and Orlando Brown working, right? They're working. Trey Smith is on DeForest Buckner, one of the most explosive defensive tackles in the league. And then Brown is working on Yannick Ngakoue. But does Mahomes get hit on this? This isn't. He might get hit a little bit, but can you ask more of your offensive lineman on this? I think Mahomes needs to kind of maybe ignore this heat a little bit more and not let it affect him as much. That's my opinion. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you. I mean, he needs to have some blinders on, and he needs to just be completely oblivious to. Not oblivious, but this is a good pocket. I mean, it's not a perfect one, but it's good enough for the caliber of Mahomes to make a complete. MVS is over.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of thinking too. I just think I think he goes through these spurts, right? Mahomes does, where the pressure does kind of it's phantom pressure gets to him a little bit, which sucks, but it's part of being he's still a quarterback. He's still learning, right? He's not he's not all the way he's not 35 with all this experience under his belt. Yeah, he's still got a long way to go, and I just think that's one way that I think showed up in this game that he could maybe be a little better about is ignoring the pressure. When it's coming at him all game, right, which it was, just the plays when it doesn't actually get there, being able to not let it affect you still, right? I think that appeared on a couple of plays, and I'll have that up in my article on Wednesday. But I wanted to show the game-ending interception too quickly, because it's a very good example of maybe the receiving core, this new receiving core not being all on the same page with their quarterback. And guys, it's not one of the new faces. It's McCole Hardman. I really think you have the Chiefs running a slant flat combo, right? Just a typical slant flat. This is one of the, easiest quick passes in the book. But look what McCole does while Juju runs the slant. He doesn't run a flat. He runs more of just a quick sit route or a little hitch. And look at the timing of Juju's slant get messed up. Juju stutters. And look at Mahomes' release. He double clutches, and that allows Gilmore to catch up and break up the slant. I really think McCole Hardman gets the play wrong here, and it screws up the Chiefs, and it forces interception. Because I just don't. It's especially if it's a hurry up offense. I guarantee you, that they do a lot of simple stuff, with the hurry up, and it makes sense that one of their simple things to go to right away if they're hurried up and they think they got man. Hey, let's just go to a slant. Let's do a slant flat. It's an easy pass completion, and especially against man. And McColl's just got to go to flat right away. And I just think he didn't know the play. He misheard the play maybe, or just didn't know what he was supposed to do on that particular call. But I think it's pretty obvious that he was supposed to have a flat route there. Bryan, am I seeing that correctly, you think?
I think I do. I've never saw a slant hitch combination like they end up running here. I don't want to, you don't want to be all in on that because it could be, but Mahomes did the slant. And so you sit there and ask, well, what was he supposed to do? It's probably what you say. It's probably a flat, at least something that gets him out of the way of that window. And
I should have pointed this out before I threw it to you too, because I want to point out Juju after the play, looking basically at McCole and tell him to dish out, go to the flat, which and it's frustrating because that's something where we've seen it with McCole throughout his career, these kind of mistakes happening. So it is a little frustrating, isn't it?
Well, it's just. And here's where it's hard. He does offer them something that no one else does, right? He has the speed to run certain routes in a timely manner. And every now and then it connects. Like he had a play against the Chargers, a big play against the Chargers that I don't know all the other receivers could have done. But I don't know if the juice is worth the squeeze because it's just every week it's something like this. It really is. It's a mental error. He's not where he's supposed to be. Him and Mahomes, they're – very rarely do they connect and have chemistry, and I'm over it, man. I just really am, and it's something they're gonna have to. Sky Moore, can we try Sky? Like I don't know.
Right. I'm glad you mentioned that because I do think that's one thing we need to, with the ineffectiveness of the receiver group so far. I really do think that's one way they can just try something out. Right, is just by getting Sky involved. So I agree with you on that. I am going to bring up Isaiah Pacheco, though, real quick, just for rookie watch around this show out. It's been a good show so far. I just wanted to point this out, though, real quick on offense because, we talked about the zone running and how that could maybe be disadvantaged. Well, they get Pacheco in the game here, and what do you know? They don't run zone. They run, some duo, some double teams. Look at all the double teams across the board. You got double teams on 90, double teams on this defensive tackle, and then on the edge over here with was that 2 tight ends? Yeah, is that that's Jody? Yeah, so 2 tight ends. Yeah, so you're running duo, and this is a more powerful run play. This is what your powerful offensive linemen get to really shove people out of the way and get downhill rather than being more kind of moving in space rather. And your running backs can really take advantage of that. And this play doesn't it's not too far off from breaking. If Jody kind of holds on to his block a little better towards the end here, Pacheco reads this right, tries to hit the right seam, and the defense covers it up pretty well. But any thoughts on this Pacheco run, Talon? Any thoughts on just this? You see the Chiefs run game, do these powerful kind of runs. I'd like to see it more. I'm sure you would too. What do you think?
Yeah, I like Pacheco. I like his run style. I think they need to utilize him more in the goal line. Obviously, we saw some goal line miscues per usual, it feels. But, man, put Burton in the eye, get Pacheco, get downhill, and punch it into the goal line. That's what I want to see. But, yeah, I like his style. I like the duos. I'm not a big fan of the gap unless we're running with Jarek. I get Jarek in space, but get Pacheco downhill, man. That's what I want to see more of. Get the rookie involved.
Yeah, and the short yardage hasn't been great this year, but I think that the offensive line has more to do with that than the backs. But just wanted to shout out George Karlaftis here having a pretty good rep against Quentin Nelson. I'd say that's pretty impressive. Bryan, what do you think? It kind of overpowering Quentin Nelson here a little bit. He seems to do it pretty well.
Definitely. He stunts in there right as the ball snapped. That probably maybe catches Quentin off guard a little bit, but it's not anything he hasn't saw 100,000 times in his football career. So it still holds up. between George, and then you see Saunders there taking over against Ryan Kelly. Those are two really good offensive linemen that George Karlaftis and Colin Saunders stepped up, and not only that, they tackle maybe the best running back in the league on 3rd and 1. Just a picture perfect thing that kind of, shows what the whole run defense was this week. It was super impressive and kind of a change of pace from what we've seen in the past with the Chiefs.
Yeah, and I'm glad you pointed out Saunders' play on that snap, because he was impressive, right? And the other guy that was impressive along with Saunders, one of the other depth guys, Malik Herring, my guy. I've been kind of touting him since, kind of trying to pump him up since the Chiefs took him with the torn ACL he suffered in the pre-draft process during the 2021 draft. He is now healthy and he's contributing to the team. It was his first action. And he made a couple stops. He actually only had four snaps total and made 2 tackles that both ended up as only about 1 yard gains. So him and Saunders both stepped up. And here as a 3 tech, I think you actually mentioned this earlier. Talon. Yeah, this is the Darius Harris play too. He's playing inside a little bit too. Playing it lined up inside that tackle. Herring's versatility, I'm definitely excited to have him kind of as just that back of the rotation. Maybe not even play, all that much, just because of the other bodies they have. Mike Dana obviously hurt this game, but I think he's a nice little rotational piece. I don't know, Talon, did you have any thoughts on the depth defensive linemen like Colin Saunders and Malik Herring showing out in this game? Even Carlos Dunlap. Carlos Dunlap had a good game too.
Yeah, man, Frank Clark was good. The entire D-line was good. The depth guys, the starters. I've been really impressed with the front 7 the first 3 games, and I think that's going to be a strength of this team that they're going to have to lean on a lot, especially if adversity keeps popping up on the offensive side of the ball. The defense is going to have to hang their hat on their performances.
You said it. It's truth, and it's a good thing to see the defense, playing pretty well while the offense maybe figures it out, because that is the key to winning a Super Bowl is how well the offense does, right? The defense just needs to be a complementary piece, and we'll see them do that. It's a long season, fellas, but we're learning every week, right? We learn more about the Chiefs this week. Make sure you're checking out all our stuff on arrowheadpride.com. Another great addition to the film analyst group here at the site is Nate Christensen, and he put together a very good explanation of how the Chiefs' early down offense wasn't doing enough, and maybe some of the reasons why that was the case as well. So glad we got together, boys. Glad we got to watch. Even if it was a loss, again, we learned some more about the Chiefs this week. Got the Bucs next week, fellas. I don't know if you guys are feeling super confident about that. I'm feeling pretty good about it, though. I think the Chiefs are in for a bounce back. So we're gonna look at that game next week. We'll break it down. We'll be right back here at the same spot. So make sure you're tuned in then. Appreciate you watching tonight or today. Make sure you're subscribing and liking the YouTube page, following everything on arrowheadpride.com. For now, I'm Ron. This is Bryan. This is Talon. Appreciate you guys watching, and we'll catch you next time.